So I'd like to start off today by saying that I'm 26 years old and I have sex almost 7 days a week. Almost on Monday, almost on Tuesday. I've been meaning to do that joke forever and I just finally, hopefully you found that amusing. Oh, that was a great introduction. Nailed it. Anyways, alright. So, today I'm feeling very happy, as you can tell. The last few weeks have been beating my ass. And that's a metaphor. Now, I've been feeling very weighed down, very confused, very stressed. My heart has been hurting. I think it was just a very big transitory period for myself, and I think a lot of other people as well. If you've been feeling it, let me know what you were going through. I know my heart was opening, the heart chakra. I felt that it was really opening. So today I want to be a little bit more of myself. Usually when I do these videos I'm a little more like grounded and centered, but this is usually how I am. I'm a little more upbeat. I'm a little more crazy. My kindergarten teacher told my dad that I was the worst student she had in 20 years, and guess what? I'm still that little boy. So, I kind of want to, since we're in this new, we're letting go of, everything's dying, the old is, right, the fall is, the old energies are now just dissolving, they're dying, croaking, if you will, that's a little more respectful. But we're into this transitory period, and it's wonderful. So I want to kind of share my story. This is going to be hopefully a long video, and maybe those of you who enjoy it will watch it. So my story. Here we go. Most of you, sorry for the voice changes, most of you know that I'm a cancer survivor. I was diagnosed when I was 14 years old with leukemia, with a form of leukemia. I went through a year or 10 months of hard chemo, went into remission immediately, stayed in remission for another year, and then I relapsed when I was 16 with the same form of leukemia, and I had to have a bone marrow transplant. So for those of you who read my writings and my blog and stuff, you know that when I had the bone marrow transplant, I was given a 50-50 chance. It was maybe the bone marrow transplant will take. If it does, great. Maybe it won't. If it doesn't take, then I don't know. I wouldn't be here right now, or I might have been here, who knows. So, that's my story with that. I had leukemia at 14, cancer at 14, re-diagnosed at 16, had a bone marrow transplant at 16 years old from a beautiful unknown donor who is now very known to me, and her family's wonderful, Kelly Payne. She is a beautiful little angel in my life, and I'm very grateful for her. And so that's my story. I could get into it, I could explain all the details, the gritty, nasty details to you, but we'll have to wait because a book's coming out. Book's in the works, ladies and gentlemen. And I think that will really go into detail with what I went through, with what I experienced, and more so what I witnessed and what I learned from all those things. But I guess I could delve a little bit more into it, give you something good. It's only 4 minutes into the video, let's give you something good. Well, hopefully this will be a 20-minute video. So when I was 14, we'll start with other things that happened to me, other happenings during my treatment. So when I was coming out of my the first treatment when I was 14, I was on these steroids, and they made my face really fat. My brother used to call me whale face, and I think it was his way of getting back at me because I used to call him fat when I was a kid. I was really mean. Everyone's like, "Oh, Zach, you're so nice and you're so positive. Have you always been positive?" No, not really. I was a dickhead. Most people that knew me in middle school would be like, "Wow, Zach was an arrogant little son of a biatch. He was mean. He was nasty with his words." And I was. It was my way of taking power from others with my words. I've always been good with words. I've always been able to either inspire or break down people, and I used it to break down people to gain power. Whereas now, hopefully these words are inspiring. But my face was really fat, super fat. And so, being an avid athlete my whole life, I was always thin. I was never more than 10% body fat. I was always, very muscular and very lean. And so I would look at myself in the mirror and I couldn't recognize myself. I'd have to cover my face like this. Hopefully you can hear me. But I'd cover my face because all I could recognize was my eyes. So, the only way that I knew how to get rid of this swelling in my cheeks was to limit my food intake. Or they were saying, it's swelling, Zach, it's swelling. So, the doctor said it was swelling. So I became anorexic. I actually think I became bulimic because I was taking laxatives. I was 15 years old. And because I had resonated and had loved my body so much, this vessel, and was very egoed into like this body, I'm handsome, everyone loves me, da 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 da. I always get asked to be a model at the mall. Girls like me. And then all of a sudden I just disappeared. And then I was sick and I had no muscles and my face was fat. So I was like, the only way I can get rid of this swelling in this fat face is to stop eating. And so I took laxatives when I was 15 to make sure that what I was eating wasn't being assimilated by my body. I did that for about 3 months, and then the swelling started going away because I got off the medications, and naturally the swelling just dissipates when the medications are done with. And any of you, I was on steroids, so anyone who's been on corticosteroids would understand exactly what I'm saying. Then I got back into a normal routine and started living my life, got re-diagnosed at 16. And I had the bone marrow transplant, and the bone marrow transplant was probably the worst swelling because I was on super high doses of these steroids, which made my face like really blown up. If anyone wants to see pictures, you can go on my on the Facebook page, and it's under It Gets Better. That was when my face was like halfway fat, but I was just like nothing, no muscle at all, just bone. And so, again, I was 17 and I started working out again. I finally was done with the transplant. That was all good, but the doctors, I had this graft versus host my body was rejecting. So what happens with most people, I'll explain a bone marrow transplant really quick. What happens is, for a bone marrow transplant, you take donor stem cells, or bone marrow cells, right? So that's why it's a bone marrow transplant. You can do it two ways. The donor can inject themselves with a shot each day, and I think it's twice a day or 3 times a day for like 10 days, I believe. And then after that 10 days, that increases their stem cell production, the baby cells in their bone marrow, and it's floating around in their bloodstream so that they can take a blood transfusion from you and then harvest those stem cells. Or the donor has to they'll go in with a big thick needle into the donor's hip bone area and extract the bone marrow, which is much more painful for the donor. For the recipient, myself, all I had to do was get 7 days full body radiation twice a day only. That was shitty. Full body radiation twice a day. Then for 2 days they gave me as high of a dosage of chemotherapy as you possibly could to really kill my bone marrow so that it wasn't producing any more cells. So they pretty much poisoned me as much as possible so that my body stopped working. And it did. And so I got the bone marrow transplant, was pretty sick for about a month. I'm unconscious of a month because of how many painkillers I was on, because I had mouth sores all the way from my mouth into my trachea, and I couldn't swallow. My hands, all the calluses and the nails fell off my hands, my feet. My hands always felt like they were burning, so I was in constant pain. It sounds like I'm like whining right now. I just wanted to share my story with you, so here's the story. And so I got done with all that transplant, but my body was rejecting the donor blood. So the donor's blood was being rejected by my body's antibodies, and so they have to put you on super high doses of steroids to suppress your immune system. So I was super fat in the face this time, and I became exorexic, or whatever I think that's what they call it, exorexia. But it was another anorexia. So I was training 4 hours a day, eating 1,800 calories. I was making sure I was only eating 1,800 calories. I was starving all the time. I was always hungry. All I thought about was food and not eating salt and eating enough potassium and blah 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 blah. My body was totally, my whole life was consumed with not eating food. And then again, I just said, fuck it, this is bullshit. Well, actually, my mom was like, I dropped to about 118 pounds at 6 feet tall. Ugh, seriously bad. And so my mom, we had this therapist come for like family therapy to make sure that everyone was doing okay through the treatment. And my mom called her and she's like, I don't know what's going on. Zach just keeps losing weight. And so my therapist comes in and she looks at me and my mom's like, what's going on? Why is he losing weight? And therapist goes, you know why you're losing weight, Zach? You're anorexic. I was like, yeah. How was he gonna deny it? Of course I'm anorexic. I know it, you know it, everyone's knowing it. So then I just was like, you know what, fuck it, I'll have a fat face, I'll get off the medication soon enough. And then started eating again and gained like 30 pounds right away. And it was pretty funny. But I guess that's my story. So what I wanted to say was, we all have these, the whole point of this video, even though it's not like a really detailed story, if you do want a detailed story, you can ask me. If anyone wants to comment on it, you can ask me and say, hey Zach, I would love to hear more of the story if you could like narrate some of it before your sexy book comes out, which all of you are gonna buy. And so we all have these turmoils in our life. Those were my health turmoils. We all obviously, like, I was teased pretty bad as a kid. Just from silly stuff, like the silliest things, and that's what we do as kids. We're jealous of each other and we tease each other, or we want power from each other, so we tease each other and we're mean to each other. So I was teased as a kid really bad, like we all were. I got sick twice. I had anorexia, I had exorexia. We all have these issues. Luckily I have an incredible family. Sure, my parents fought, but they're absolutely the best parents I could have ever asked for. The most incredible support system, grandparents, not distant family, what would you call it, aunts, uncles, cousins, just an incredible support system. But we all have these really difficult things in life that happen to us. Heartbreak, or abuse, or not having a support system, or illnesses. But what's really, and this is going to sound so cliche, but it's so true, is that these things make us stronger spiritually and mentally. Some people in the spiritual, community would say, oh, that's karma, or that's blah 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 from past life things. It could be, it very well could be. But what really is what's happening right now. What really matters is what's happening right now. So what are we taking from those experiences? What are we learning from them? So I learned that I was a little shithead. Not a shithead, I was just lost. I just didn't understand where I was going when I was a kid, so I was mean to people, and I wanted to take their power away because people were taking my power away. And then when I went into the hospital and I started seeing 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 9-year-olds going through chemotherapy treatment, going through radiation, listening to them scream, getting catheters, put up their urethra because they couldn't go to the bathroom, or having them die while I was in the hospital.